Ever wondered what makes TV so powerful in Jamaica? Time to find out. Welcome to Global TV Group 358, where television meets innovation. We're not just about shows, we're about shaping society. In Jamaica, TV keeps you informed, connects diverse voices, and supports democracy. Imagine a Jamaica where broadcasters unite, sharing data and collaborating globally. That's us, a unified voice in the TV industry. Did you know TV advertising is still king? It drives website traffic, boosts brand equity, and powers integrated campaigns. Even in an age of digital, TV stands strong, resilient in tough times. Our global TV deck is your treasure trove of insights and data. With charts, graphs, and success stories, it's your guide to impactful TV advertising. Curious to learn more? Visit our website and see how Global TV Group 358 keeps television at the heart of entertainment in Jamaica. Get ready to binge watch the future.
God of my salvation, because the mouth of the sinful and wicked is open. Rastafari. Come with us. Rastaman throw one stone, and it pick a bad feeling to all wicked men. That's a people there. Make a man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Only when man like Marcus Garvey speak, wicked men would I hear. Hear now hear. Instead of that, they only sit aside and rub and cheat, and no first the poor. Make up what I seen him. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a plan. Make a man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. My favorite part, if Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see, they didn't sell out Rasta and sell it out. I sell out Babylon. Big man throw a stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Big man throw a stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. If Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see, they can sell out Rasta and sell out. I sell out Babylon. Yes, stop on the right. If I show a stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a plan. If I throw a stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. You have eyes to see, let them see. You have ears to hear, let them hear. What a prophet must say. President Mandela was in prison for 20 odd years. And he leave from the prison and take the seat of the president. Stone one, bring him and throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what's a black, bring him and throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Rastaman throw a stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men.
Stibby dim day, we and global TV.
I tell you, my system is nuts on this end. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. A day pack of press conference and mouth full of I don't know what they were talking about. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. It is your program, The People's Point of View. Never mind the buzzcock as what is going on the other side here. The computer just a crash. I'm fed up of it now. Anyway, what a lot of press conference today. What a lot of I don't know what they were talking about. Because Marco Rubio come, and it looked like he come with so God almighty mouth. I hope you're hearing me on YouTube. So God almighty mouth. To my community of party and all my family members, platform moderators, membership holders, viewers, subscribers, commenters, and trolls, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us, YouTube and TikTok. Thank you for joining us this evening. There are some bits and pieces I want to pick up on. And even before me say good evening, let me get this off of my chest. Let me say to the Let me say to the People's National Party, you see anything over YouTube do uno, and the same thing over Facebook do me. Facebook is not a platform where me go, especially on my computer. If I try to open up Facebook on my computer, it immediately crashes my computer. There is something with the People's National Party why them can't use YouTube, and there is something with me why me can't use Facebook. So I'm not going to get to replay anything from their press conference because I'm not going to crash my computer to please the People's National Party. When the People's National Party get over to YouTube, I will meet them over there. But for now, just like how them old-fashioned and I like over YouTube, me is the same old-fashioned and I don't like over Facebook. So I think both of us have settle the score. So I'm not going to crash my computer for tell PNP story. PNP tell for them story where them want to tell them story. People can go watch it. In our modern days, me now go walk and hold PNP and tie them and drag them and say, you know what? You can utilize more media platform. You can utilize all the social media platform. I really don't have time for that. Trust me. In this media age, in assessing the platform that generate more views, there is something that YouTube do to them, and same thing, yeah. What him name? Facebook do the same thing to me. So many People's National Party now go get the chance for really meet up. Because them can't use Facebook and me, them can use YouTube, and me can use Facebook. So I don't know when both of us is going to buck up in the media space. But however, when them reach, me we know. Debbie Jarvis, good evening and welcome. Beat and Teach Sharon Bernard, good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Who else is here? Lorraine Casanova, good evening. Good evening. Monica Wills, Norman Ferguson, Yvonne Riley, good evening. RJ, Marcia Thomas, good evening. Gloria Morris, Paula Shelley, good evening. Sharon Bernard, Catherine rather, good evening. Norman Ferguson, Rennie Nicholson, Joan Bailey, Canadian Girl, good evening. Hope I haven't missed anyone. Michael Nepper, Beat and Teach, Wagwan, Ladybug, Coates Noreen, Millicent Jones, Violet Watson, Christine Gilbert, good evening, good evening. Paulette Lewis, good evening. Arlene Foster, Wagwan, Ladybug, Andrew James, Rennie Nicholson, Malika Hawthorne, Abinasar Cody, Claudette Robinson, good evening, all. IG, I'll try if, I don't even know if I'm logging to IG on my laptop. Hold on, let me see. If it asks me if I go to the Bull Malarkey right now, hold on. Let me see if it logs me into this. What was... I don't even remember what my password was. Anyway, let me struggle on. No, when the People's National Party get over you, I don't have the time to go around in circles. There are accessible platform over here. If you search, YouTube is where everybody go look for a lot of things. I don't have the time to walk and search for the People's National Party news to tell. If they want to go around corner, go talk it around corner. Me upfront somebody. Me not like go around corner. Anyway. Christopher, good evening. Opal's Kitchen. You watch it on YouTube probably because somebody may have been broadcasting it, but the PNP now have it on them page. Let me look if, does Mark Golden have a YouTube page? I watched it, but I watched it on Mark Golden TikTok because I was out and about. So I watched it on Mark Golden's TikTok, but you know, TikTok videos are not saved. Let me see if Mark Golden have a YouTube page. I think he has. Oh God, see, my computer freeze again. I'm really not into the bull crap. If you can hear me, my peeps, just hold on. My thingy has frozen, so I don't have access to see what's going on. If needs be, I might have to come out off the YouTube studio and come back in, or restart the computer. Hold on a second. TikTok, bear with me a second. Hold on. I need to force close this. Hold on, my peeps. I hope you can still hear me. My system is fucked up on this side. I'm restarting the computer to see if I get this sorted. Hold on. Bear with me. Let me restart all of this, please. Okay, me now go around in a circle, search for the PNP galangin. Who hear it, who want go over Facebook or wherever go watching, then go over there go watch it. I literally don't have time for the PNP. The world is bigger than where they are. Like literally bigger than where they are. So me really don't have the time for the run around. No, me not go run around in circles on these outdated page where a lot of people now go to. Same way PNP can use YouTube, me can use the Galangin. PNP have a YouTube page, they have a YouTube channel. As to why they don't use it when they're having press conferences, I don't know. I hope you all can hear me. I'm on my phone at the moment trying to get my system back up and running. Let me know if you can hear me on YouTube, please. YouTube, can you hear me? Can you hear me, YouTube? Oh, yes, you're hearing me. I'm just trying to get this all back up and running. My computer will work all the time except for when I want to go live. It continues to crashes. But never mind. BOJ is a private media organization. I'm talking about PNP apparatus. Just like how when Andrew Holness, even in a parliament, even when Andrew Holness had doing budget, Andrew a broadcast on him TikTok, YouTube, and everywhere page. I don't have the time for PNP and the idleness. They don't seem to understand how the media work. Neither do I. Hold on, let me try and set up this thing, please. Bear with me. I need to pause that one so I don't confuse the audience. Let me hold on. Just give me a chance. I'm setting up back things, please. It is the system just keep crashing, but I'm setting it up back on the computer. Just bear with me a second while I get all my malarkeys back up and running. While I get my malarkeys back up and running, you bear with me because the entire system was crushed. I'm not gonna use IG and Facebook on my computer. I just don't have luck with them too. So I just don't use them. If I do, I only just use them on my phone. Hold on. I'll check if Mark Golden have a YouTube page or if BOJ carried it today. But I'm not one that has the time. You see, in an election year, you expect one to have all their media apparatus up, ready and running, ready to hit the ground at any moment, running. Hold on, let me see if I'm just trying to line up back all my things. My peeps, just bear with me. Let me see if Matt Golden, YouTube, or BOJ carried this thing today. Okay, so it wasn't on Matt Golden's YouTube page. It wasn't on the PNP YouTube page. Let me check BOJ. And that's the last I'm checking. BOJ TV. Okay, BOJ had it today, so let me line up my screen. Alright, let me go to my share screen. Bear with me, my feet. I just need to get everything back up and running. Let me see where the starts. Come on, audio. Oh, Jesus. Let me check this audio because I'm not hearing anything on my side. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, I'm trying to get this sorted. Hang on. My peeps, let me try this other for Angel video and see if it. Oh, there's no audio on your computer now. Oh God. Hold on, my peeps. All right, stop that.
The proposals that we've made as being somehow not lacking credibility or being irresponsible and so on. Nothing could be further from the.
Bear with me, my peeps. We're gonna listen until we get this set up. I'm also going to end the TikTok live and start it back immediately for technical purposes, please. So we just continue to listen to the People's National Party press conference for a while.
Good day indeed. The Jamaican people have been suffering for a prolonged period of time, and there are a set of proposals that have been put forward to lessen the burden on the people of this country. And whereas some are opposed to those proposals because they did not conceptualize them, we have a competent team here today that will go through the proposals, cost them, and show you how they will be funded so we can ease the burden on the Jamaican people. First up will be the leader of the party and the next Prime Minister of Jamaica, Mark Golding. Please make him welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Campbell. Greetings to everybody who is here, all members of the media, those who are watching online. It's indeed a pleasure to be with you today. So, in the just concluded budget debate, the opposition, People's National Party, through our spokesperson for finance, Julian Robinson, and myself, put forward our vision for the first term of office of the next PNP government. We took the opportunity to lay out some of our proposals.
Open an award-winning ISA today in under 15 minutes. AJ Bell, feel good investing.
As to how to make Jamaica a better place for all, to encourage economic growth, moving from the stagnation, which has been a feature of this government's management of the economy, moving to higher levels of growth that can create more wealth for our people, can create more fiscal space for social investments and for infrastructure investments and so on. In the closing of the budget debate, the Minister of Finance attempted some political gimmickry to portray the proposals that we've made as being somehow not lacking credibility or being irresponsible and so on. Nothing could be further from the truth. We have gone through our proposals with care and attention and diligence. We've used the available data from the sources that are publicly known, the budget books and the fiscal policy paper and other instruments that have been tabled with the budget and other available information to analyze the costing of our proposals and how we would be able to pay for them. The ministers tried to make out that what we were proposing in our presentations was an implied budget. That is not what we were doing. And we never said that we were doing that. We were putting forward our policy commitments for the first term. And the term of office is up to 5 years while we are in government. Clearly, the phasing of our proposals will take into account the fiscal rules, the priorities that we have, and the situations that unfold and affect the economy going forward. I reiterate that we are very committed to fiscally prudent management of the economy. Indeed, the fiscal rules that have guided the debt reduction over the last over 10 years are a result of the work that we did when we were last in government and were legislated by us during that time. And those rules have guided the entire process of budgeting over the period since, and the surpluses that needed to be driven so that we could bring down the national debt to where it is now at a roughly 69% of GDP. But everyone, I think, accepts that having managed to grapple with the debt monster and tame it and bring it under control, we need to now pivot. We need to now move forward in a new way so that we can start to take the economy in a direction that can deliver for the Jamaican people and provide solutions to the deep problems that we face. And that is what our program is designed to do. So the question is, how is it to be funded? As you will see in the course of this press conference, we have come up with a series of ideas, some of which would be paid for out of the budget in each year going forward, some of which would be paid for by the agencies which have the responsibility for those particular items. And the totality of the budget cost of our proposals based on our estimates is $23 billion annually. And that would be assuming that everything was rolled out from day one. And that does not include the 11.4 billion, which the law has as ending, the extraction of 11.4 billion from NHT, which the law has ending at the end of this coming fiscal year. So the year ending March 2026 is by law currently the last year that these extraction of resources, annual extraction of resources from NHT is allowed and authorized. So we have assumed that that will not be extended, and in any event, we do not intend to extend it. The government hasn't said what their position on that is, but the society as a whole, I believe, is not in favor of any further extraction of resources from the NHT to fund the budget. So we will be putting an end to that. So how will we pay for the $23 billion of expenditure that our programs aggregate to, and stopping the annual extraction of 11.4 billion from the NHT? First of all, as I've said, we have to comply with the fiscal rules, and the phasing and timing of the implementation of our proposals will be subject to compliance with those things. But it's very important to understand, first of all, that in this year's budget, which is roughly $1.27 trillion, there is $360 billion of what is described as discretionary expenditure. That is expenditure that is decided on by the political directorate based on their priorities and is separate from interest payments, which are always have to be provided for in the budget by the Constitution, and also salaries of public sector workers. So that $360 billion represents the issues that this government has over time decided are important for the nation. Now, nobody would expect an incoming government of the PNP, having been voted in on a mandate to deliver the change that we are bringing to the society, to just follow the priorities of the government that would have been voted out to give us, to put us into office. So clearly, that $360 billion will be reconfigured, and we will go through it very carefully, line by line, to decide what programs we will keep, what programs we will scale down, what programs we might discontinue altogether, what programs we might defer, so as to create room for the $23 billion that we want to roll out of that $360 billion. Secondly, it is important to note that, as this document here shows, which is the government of Jamaica's fiscal policy paper, which is tabled nowadays with each budget, that was part of the transformational fiscal regime that we implemented when we were in office last, which requires this to be done. It has projections in it, and those projections show what the government is anticipating: the revenues, expenditures, debt, inflation, all of the important parameters that affect the economy and affect public financing, how those will be projected for the next 4 years going forward. In this document, they are projecting increasing revenues by about $240 billion over the next 4 years, just by virtue of nominal inflation, prices moving over time. Jamaica now our tax system is heavily weighted towards indirect taxation, which is a taxation on the value of goods and services, either imported or sold within the economy. So that 240 area or $1 billion of additional or new expenditure that we would need to fund. And furthermore, I was looking at the projections again today, and if you look at the expenditure projections from 25-26, which is the coming fiscal year, and going forward, and you were to inflate the expenditure projections for the coming year by the projected rate of inflation, which is 5%, and you take and you inflate that other than interest, which is not subject to inflation, and you just use the projected interest numbers, you will see that there's $36 billion of additional expenditure for the following fiscal year, over and above the increases that of 5% on what is being projected for this year, which is more than the coverage that we need to fund our 22 billion. So this whole nonsense, I can only call it nonsense, that our proposals are not credible, that our proposals cannot be financed, this idea of a Finac, which is just a bogeyman being raised by the Minister of Finance for political purposes, that is all nonsense, not negoso. Our plans are credible, and we will ensure that the fiscal rules are complied with. So I'm going to now go through the specific measures that we have outlined in our budget presentation and how we have costed them. I will take some of those. I will ask Damien Crawford, our Shadow Minister for Education, to speak to those that are specific to his portfolio. Julian will speak to some as well. So if I could have the next slide, please. We will begin with the first, which is the 1 meal per student per day. And I will ask Damien to speak to that.
Thank you very much, Leader. I thank you for the opportunity to participate in this press conference, and a special good morning to those who are listening and the journalists who are present and online. We, as a People's National Party, has proposed verbatim that we would have 1 meal per needy child in school. It is confusing to us that the Minister of Finance, the past Minister of Education, would posit that that number of needy children would be 400,000, when currently they propose to feed 167,000 children. So the Minister of Education, former Minister of Education, have already stated that she believes that over 200,000 needy children.
Hey, sir, please, oh, please. Member favor, share maths no go together. The minimum stammer tonight. The fact that you're Minister of Education means that you can count or read.
Would not be fed under their current policies. However, we feel that the cost per meal should not be $280 per child, as is currently being provided, but instead $400 per child. These $280 have long been stated by principals and other practitioners within education to be insufficient to feed the children. Many have caused for ask for another $100 from the children, and some have reduced the number of days that they have been able to feed the children. So we propose a $400 per meal for primary and secondary school children. The number of days in the school year, which we all know and agree is 190 days in the year. Percentage of children needing meals was estimated at 56% of children needing meals. This is based on the recent survey that suggested that severe or moderate food insecurity was 55.6%. So we carried that 56% of our people are within that space. The total number of children we have in school is 440,000. Therefore, the number of children in need of meals will be 246,400. The total cost of the proposal, therefore, multiplying 246,400 by 190 days for $400 is $18.7 billion. However, the book that everyone seems to be most concerned about has a current school feeding budget of $8.98 billion. So the additional would be approximately $9.9 billion. So $9.7 billion. So therefore, the additional that we will need to find to adequately feed the 56% of children that research has shown is likely to have difficulties in eating meals are going to be 9 billion. And again, we ask for the Jamaicans to recognize that the minister in her proposal, in her suggestion, suggests that 400,000 children are in need, of which they have made a budget to feed only 170,000, less than 170,000, leaving the other 230,000 to be sacrificed by the Jamaica Labour Party. The other proposal that we put forward is an estimate of cost for tertiary education. It is the policy objective of the People's National Party to have 1 degree per household or its equivalent. It is important that we highlight a level 4 vocation is equivalent to a degree. Within that, to facilitate that policy objective, we like to do a first in the family scholarship, meaning that the first person within a household that matriculates to the university will receive a scholarship. Ridiculously, and is ludicrously a word, but yes, quite ludicrous. The minister seemed to assume that all children in a particular age cohort will matriculate to the university, while it was her mismanagement of education that has caused for only 18% to matriculate. So while we would have hoped that all would be able to matriculate, her lack of activity and change within the ministry has caused for only 18% of our children to currently matriculate to the university. This will be something that we will target moving forward as well. However, we have to use our current circle.
Let me stop you there, man. I don't know about how the Jamaica system set up, but a while ago you said a vocational, a level 4 vocational qualification is equivalent to a degree. No, Mr. Crawford. It's equivalent to the first year of an undergraduate degree, not a full 3-year undergrad, Mr. Crawford. That's not true. So you need to correct that part there. It's not equivalent. A level 4 vocational cannot have the equivalent of a level 6, which a degree is. So clarify what that means for me, because that not sound correct.
Circumstances for our current budget. Therefore, of the 36,000 children within the age cohort, only 18% are currently matriculating. We also have organized to assume what is the percentage of children are matriculating that would be the first in the family. Again, another feature of our society is that the vast majority of those performing at the secondary level.
If Hart is doing that, then Hart is giving substandard education and call it degree. It's not a degree. Well, if they want to call it a degree, it's a vocational qualification. Over here, it would be rather an NVQ or a diploma, but certainly not a degree at level 4. Degrees start awarding from level 5. Below level 5 are diplomas and all of those things. But then again, they can design their framework. But if it comes to, yeah, it ought to be a diploma, not degree, diploma. Yeah, it ought to be a diploma. Anything below level 6 ought to be a diploma. Then you better mother go to Jamaica, go study level 4 and talk so may have degree rather than study levels up to level 6 and level 7. That would be a substandard hard trust level 4 certificate in Jamaica is equivalent to an associate degree. Wow. No, sir. Well, then just a batch it up. Really, if it's them I give people qualification, but are they really teaching them anything? Well, the something that in the UK framework level associate degree in the United Kingdom, it's not a formal qualification. You either have higher national diploma or diploma in education and so on, but you don't associate degree is really not a thing here. Evelyn Suzette, associate degree is really not a thing here, but let's continue to listen to Damien.
Matriculate into university are of the upper echelons of society and from families that already have a degree within that family. And so we assume 1 in every 4 person matriculate into the university, or 25%, will be first in the family. Again, another reality that we will target as the People's National Party and that we have been targeting. Indeed, whenever there is a proposal, a plan for the movement of these people, the JLP has always sought to suggest that these are bad policy plans. They said the same about Michael Manley. They said the same about PJ Patterson led government. Indeed, I wonder how can it be posited that a government of PJ Patterson that moved tertiary access from 6% to 19% could be perceived to be a bad government of any sort in any country. Notwithstanding, our average annual cost per student is $600,000. We are very wary of a Minister of Finance that is refusing to do research.
Fair, and I understand we do have different education system, but when you check these people with a level 4 and tell them so they have a degree, they may come out England or America and think to say they had a degree for true, which is absolutely not true. Level 4 in the UK is just a higher national certificate. Level 4 in the UK is just a higher national certificate. It's not even a diploma. So that level 4 carry a high standard. Are they really teaching them something, whether it be academic or technical? I don't know. But I think the level 4 and the degree don't sit well together. It really sounds substandard if it is what they're saying level 4, a level 4 technical qualification is.
Because if you call the universities, MICO, for example, less than 400,000, the teachers' colleges, UTech, less than 600,000, and many UWI degrees is less than 600,000. Where will she find that the average cost of education is 900,000 is beyond me. And it is likely, therefore, that the same 18% might be the targets we achieve, might be 18% of those targets. Can you just...
No, but if them are teach good and we have heart all across the country and them a issue degree. Why we have certain skill shortage, I don't understand that. They should be filling the technical skills if them a teach good an award degree in it. Are people getting just theory or are they getting practical that would help them along the way? I don't know.
So when we do that total, the number of students in the 4 years of university at any given time of for the first in the family would be approximately 6,480 students in years 1, 2, 3, 4 combined. The total annual cost of all first generation students across the year cohorts, therefore, is approximately $3.9 billion and not 31 billion has been posited by the minister in her false accusations. The estimate for the RIDE program, again, this is a program that we have posited. The Prime Minister have chosen to seek a response. A very different program, which we'll expound upon in future conversations, but not just the provision in 2 or 3 parishes and whoever get the bus, but instead a targeted approach of 20,000 students with demonstrating need. Initially, we target those who are most in need and scale up as the fiscal space allow to those who may be currently less in need, but still would desire to have that assistance. So the current program that the government have is targeting 7,500 students. No wonder we have persisted to have an absenteeism ratio of approximately 24% in Jamaica. Chronic absenteeism is stated to be 10%. So Jamaica in its entirety is operating under chronic absenteeism. To help to fix that, we will target transportation, especially because we embrace school choice within the society. The subsidy is up to $2,500 per week, depending on the cost of travel, and each student gets the benefit of up to this amount. 38 weeks for school per year. The initial annual cost, therefore, will be $1.9 billion. Of course, we would subtract from that what they currently have allocated for the 7,500, as they will be incorporated in this 20,000 persons. Thank you very much. And I think that we have satisfactorily stated that education is the hallmark of the People's National Party.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Damien. So there you have it. We've costed our meal program, 1 meal per student per day. The RIDE program providing a subsidy up to $2,500 per week for 20,000 students, and the First in Family scholarships, which would reach over 6,000 students, and we've costed all of that out with the data that we have. I now move to agriculture. We have a proposal to establish an agricultural development fund, and we have looked at the average annual food import taxes levied, and we've applied a percentage to that, and we've arrived at a 2.5 billion annual amount, which is really from the existing tax base that we would specifically earmark for this agricultural development fund to give our farmers the support they need to be productive, to move forward. And that is within the envelope that we are able to fund, as I've said. I should mention that yesterday in Parliament, the government brought a bill to amend the GCT Act to remove GCT from food imports of fresh produce, vegetables, and meats. And it was the intervention of the opposition that caused the government to suspend debate on that bill. And that, is important to note, because when that...
This was something yesterday that Faval didn't have work out either, because as Mark Golden stopped them in their chat, it seemed to be something that was not going to be beneficial for farmers, because obviously, if I understand it carefully, if you remove GCT from those products, then it means them can bring in more product at less expense and able to lower them price, if that's correct, and outcompete the local market. I don't know. We don't know. So when it comes to number and money, me not getting at there something that leave where you not understand, you left where you not understand.
GCT is removed from those imports. any of those goods that compete with local domestic farmers are going to be have an advantage which they don't currently have now, and make life even harder for our farmers to survive. Next slide, please. Small businesses. I'm going to ask Julian to speak to this.
Thank you very much. We proposed a waive of corporate income tax for new MSMEs that are establishing for the first 3 years. And we propose that we have made an allocation of $1 billion for this. If we got data from the Companies Office of Jamaica to look at the number of MSMEs, a number of companies that are established each year, and that is in the region of about 5,000 new companies per year on average over the last 3 years. Now, not every single company is going to pay taxes initially in their first year or necessarily make a profit. But we made an assumption that, let's say, 60% of them would actually make a profit. Based on that, we have also done a calculation of what that profit would look like. And so the loss the impact on the Treasury for offering that tax waiver for 1 year is $1 billion. Nowhere near the $11 billion that the minister has announced. And I want to remind the country why we're doing this. Jamaica has a very high level of informality in our business sector, mainly because businesses stay outside the formal system to avoid paying tax. We want them in the formal system because even though you're not paying corporate income tax, when you're in the formal system, you'll be contributing to GCT, you're employing people, your payroll tax. There are a number of other benefits to companies coming into that formal system. And we believe this incentive is important to encourage businesses, MSMEs, to come into the formal system. So based on our calculation, looking at the history of the compliance and also taking into account that businesses get a $375,000 income tax credit every single year. So if, for example, let me use a simple example. Let's say your profits are $5 million, right? Or 25%, no, your profits are $500,000. You pay 25% of that, that's $125,000. So you will already have a credit from the corporate income tax. So the figures presented by the minister are nowhere near accurate in terms of what that revenue give up would be.
Before we move to the next slide, Jules, can I just make one point on this? On this issue, I just want to make one point. The minister clearly had a pro-box moment on this issue, because when she's projecting that the measure to give a 3-year tax holiday for newly formed MSMEs would cost over $11 billion per year. What that suggests is that the newly formed SMEs are making profits of over $40 billion a year. Now that's more than the profits of the entire financial sector. Come on, Minister, stop misleading the public. Yeah.
I want to go next to a sector that has allowed Jamaica to punch above its weight.
Misleading is an academic word. Lying is actually the right word. TikTok, if you bear with me one more time, I'm doing a TikTok hijack tonight. Kathy and everyone who is here, just stand by. Kathy, Debbie, and Sexy Karen, just stand by. Let me stop the TikTok live and start it one more time. I'm just doing a TikTok hack tonight. I'll explain it to you when I'm done. You should see a little bit of difference when I come back. Just hold on. Just stand by and come back straight away. I'm hacking TikTok, my peeps. I'm hacking TikTok. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me, YouTube. Bear with me, oh. Bear with me. Hold on. Right, my boxes are open. Right, my TikTok is upgraded. Right. Yes, thank you. Let's continue. Debbie is back. Let's see, Christine should come back soon. Beat and Teach is here. Because, or what I've done, that the TikTok hack is now successful. Thanks, Kathy. Welcome back. The TikTok hack has now successful and complete. My page is now open up to a wider audience. I can now open my boxes and co-host and take people on all of that. Let me see if you have mods over here, Beat and Teach. Hold on. Let me see if you have mods over here. Yes, you do anyway. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yes, my peeps. Right. Let's go back to the People's National Party press conference.
We have said we're going to put aside $1 billion for cultural and creative industry fund. We know that there's a fund for filmmakers.
Welcome
but
back, Sexy
there are
Karen.
so many other subsectors that are not accounted for. There are people who sing, there are people who dance, there are painters, there are musicians, there are artists, there are the full gamut. We have said we're going to provide this fund to enable them to grow their businesses. Many of them are in export-led businesses. They're providing a service, but they are creative, but they don't necessarily have the financial backing to expand the business in the way that we believe is important to facilitate export-led growth. So we are allocating $1 billion, and we're going to work with using the DBJ as the main entity to disburse the funds to facilitate the creation of business plans. We provide the technical assistance as well so that these individuals can grow. That's a commitment of our party. We have seen where our cultural icons have put Jamaica on the map, whether it is in sport, it's in music, and we are committed to supporting that sector even further. Now, the asset tax, again, I think this was a pro-box moment of the minister, but I want to explain the thinking behind the phasing out of the asset tax. I said three things in my budget presentation. First, that we would make access to government deposits competitive versus a system now where the two big banks get the majority of it. The second thing I said, I would phase out the asset tax over a 5-year period. Now, if you phase something out over a 5-year period, it means that each year you're taking 1/5 of that take each year. So the minister presented $8 billion yesterday that we would be giving back. In fact, the opposition leader stood on a point of order. We never said that. We said over 5 years, and we were deliberate. We knew that we could not absorb the entire amount of the asset tax in 1 year. And what we have said, by phasing it out, it will make banks more competitive, and it will reduce the cost of banking services and fees to the customer. The government has done nothing about this in 9 years. It has done nothing about this. And we believe this is important for competitiveness in the banking and financial services industry, and also for individuals who go to ATMs, use their bank cards, and have to deal with the level of fees that they absorb. So this figure of $8 billion is a mystery to me. I can say it is only consistent with the pro-box moment, where she believes that saving $2,000 a month for 3 years can make a deposit. It is fantasy, and it's actually ludicrous that a minister of finance could stand up in parliament and make such a false and deliberately inaccurate and misleading statement. She has said nothing about what the government plans to do to make the banking sector more competitive. In fact, when Fitz-Jackson brought the bill, we knew which side they stood on. They voted it down. We are committed to bringing back that bill and passing it, because you cannot have a sector in the country where, when every other sector is not doing well, only one sector is, which is banking and financial services. We have to make it more competitive and consistent with the other sectors and align with the other sectors.
Right. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Julian. We move now to energy. The government has, very late in the day, finally acceded to something that we have been calling for a long time, which is to put some funding behind allowing families that currently are not lawful customers of the grid, of JPS, but want to become lawful so that they can have proof of address, so they're no longer at risk of being prosecuted, so that the fire risks inherent in having houses that are properly wired, all of that can be dealt with. They've allocated $1 billion in the budget for that. We have said we think that's insufficient because that can only reach 20,000 households, and our estimation is that there are actually around 3,000 households that are not currently customers of JPS. We would start by adding another $1 billion to that exercise, and as fiscal space opens up, we will also look to ramp that up further. Next slide, please. So, if you add up all of the measures that we have proposed, which are charges on the budget, with all the slides we went through, the total for that is $22.6 billion. And if you round that up for conservative purposes, that's $23 billion. It's the aggregate cost of the budget of the measures that we have outlined. And that is out of a budget currently of $1.27 trillion. And therefore, a percentage of only 1.8% of the total budget to do with all these things that we think are important to help Jamaican people move forward, to help our children get a better education, to allow farmers to progress, to allow businesses to be formed and to get going, to help to drive the economy, better energy policy, etc., etc. But there are some other things in our proposals which are important and that we will speak to. As I've said, there's $360 billion of discretionary expenditure in the coming year's budget. The percentage reallocation of discretionary expenditure to fund the proposals that we have put forward is a 6.4%. And as I've said, even if you look at their projections, there's $36 billion of funding in expenditure if you gross up this coming year's expenditure other than the interest for inflation, applying the 5% projection, what you get is they're projecting additional expenditure over that of $36 billion, and we're talking about $23 billion plus the NHT, $34 billion. So there we go. And of course, the $11.4 billion is already in the budget for the current year and wouldn't have to be funded for the current year, the removal of it. But thereafter, it will have to be funded. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I've said earlier, we will deal with the NHT revenue that we'll be giving up by giving up the $11.4 billion out of the incremental growth of revenues that is projected in the fiscal policy paper itself, $240 billion of additional revenue with no new tax measures over the next 4 years. Thank you. Next slide. We have some other proposals that we want to speak to. So as Julian in his presentation said that we want to have a special deal for our senior citizens when it comes to their water rate. We want to provide them with a flat rate. How do we do that? Simply put, we will look at their past consumption, we will average the last 3 years, and as long as it appears normal and that there were no leaks and so on, we will work out what their average consumption has been. We'll apply the normal rate to that and then give them a discount, and that will be their flat rate. And we will monitor that as we go along to make sure it achieves our policy objective. Next item is the matching grant to businesses for training. That will be funded out of the HART NSTA, which is a strong body that gets on every month, it gets flows coming in from employers, contributing to it, so it has solid resources and it can afford to do this matching program out of its resources without being a charge on the budget. The employment tax credit. This is an important thing because this is an incentive for employers to bring persons who are on contract work, informal forms of employment, which is an abusive measure as used by some employers, not all. We want to encourage them to bring those workers into formal employment so the workers get their full range of benefits that were hard-won in the past, and many of those benefits were created for them by the People's National Party, and we want them to enjoy those benefits. So the employment tax credit, we're proposing to move that from 30%, which is where it was when we introduced it back in the last PNP government, to 40%. We anticipate that to be a revenue positive measure, not a cost to the budget. Next slide, please, and I'll explain why. First of all, it will boost tax compliance by companies, which has been the experience so far with the ETC, the Employment Tax Credit. And by formalizing employment, it will also bring more employee-related revenue to the government. When the ETC was introduced 10 years ago, a significant growth in corporate taxes were experienced as a result of that tax incentive. It's one of the things that from time to time one has to point out, that actually a properly designed tax incentive can in fact increase revenue by changing behavior in ways that generate more revenue. And we anticipate that that will be the case with this ETC measure. And we want to give the employers this incentive because we want to regularize employment across Jamaica. So we don't have so many workers in Jamaica not getting the benefits that are intended for them, leave with pay, etc., etc. And the other one, of course, is the deposit fund for young people up to 35 years old who want to buy a house but can't afford a deposit. The $1 billion that's allocated for that, so they can get grants towards their deposits of up to $500,000. And that will be funded out of the NHT itself. That will not be a charge on the budget. And of course, by discontinuing the extraction of resources from the NHT of 11.4 billion a year, the NHT will have significantly additional resources to do all the various things that we have in mind for the NHT, many of which I pointed out in my budget presentation. That's it, I think.
I want to say something on DBJ.
Yes, and then I have some closing remarks.
The minister announced yesterday that the DBJ would review and reform the way it provides loans to the MSME sector. Now, we made a commitment that we would back end all of the fees that MSMEs have been required to pay upfront. For example, if you're taking out a $10 million loan, MSMEs were required to pay $500,000 upfront. That was an inhibitor to persons accessing financing. Now, 9 years into the tenure of this government, just a simple adjustment. And what does that say? Have they been listening to the business sector for 9 years? The MSME sector has been calling for this adjustment. It costs the government nothing. You know how many times we sit at Standing Finance and we see monies that have been sent to the DBJ coming back unused because people can't access it because of the onerous conditions. So belatedly, after pressure from our commitment and from the sector, 9 years later, this government has decided to make this adjustment. Is 9 years too late? Can you imagine how many businesses could have accessed funding to grow, to pay more taxes, to build more products and services and make the economy improve? And you wait 9 years to do this? Them not ready. Them just not ready.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Julian. Well said. So, 23 billion of tax measures and the elimination of the extraction of resources from the NHT to fund the budget, totaling 23 billion plus 11.4, 34 billion. Incidentally, if that could ruin the economy, let's look at the 1.5 that they introduced in 2016, which cost $32 billion and which they've held up as a great achievement. They didn't misrepresent it when they presented it to the country in that election because they said it wouldn't cost anything. It ended up costing 32 billion, which they had to impose taxes to pay for that 1.5. So when you look at our measures, it's comparable in amount. It will not have any ruinous effect. To the contrary, it's going to push the country towards growth. It's going to push the country towards social cohesion, a better Jamaica, and it will pay for itself. We're being very conservative in looking at this because we haven't assumed any growth in excess of what's projected, the 1%, the measly 1% per annum growth that they are projecting for the next 4 years in their fiscal policy paper. So the message is simple. The government that we have is one of gimmicks. It's one of misrepresentations. It's one of alarmists. Instead of taking the time to focus on what they could do.
Andrew! Mark Golden says he's an alarmist. Andrew. Him tell you already for what he saw now gimmickry. The government, Mark Golden say your government, Andrew Holness, is an alarmist government. Empty barrel government.
Do for the people and how to make the budget work for the people, they again wanted to score headlines at the expense of the people. The PNP is about balancing budgets, yes, and balancing lives too. Unlike the current administration, we delivered plans with people at the center, not gimmicks, and we haven't regurgitated empty promises of the past. They are a government that has made promises which they haven't kept. No fixed term elections, no grand referendum on issues to do with all sorts of issues that they had promised, etc., etc. Our priorities are the people's priorities: a solid education, decent health care, a nutritious meal for our children, and an affordable way for them to get to school. A piece of the rock to own and make your castle. A good paying job where you're treated with dignity, and a livable wage to ensure that families can get by. That's who our presentation in the budget was created for, while the government's was a sideshow to create division and spread misinformation. We will continue to put the people first and champion the change that Jamaica is crying out for. Time come. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks much, gentlemen. Members of the media, if you do have a question or questions, please indicate, identify yourself, your media house, and go ahead with the question.
Yeah, I'll go first. Right. Yeah, man, good afternoon. Yeah, man, it's Dwayne Anderson from TVJ.
Yes.
You didn't. I have one question for, should I go ahead and ask both questions? I have two. Should I go ahead and ask both, and then, or just ask one?
For the same individual?
No, one for Damien and one for...
One at a time then.
All right, so let's start, Mr. Golding. Good afternoon again, Mr. Golding. I've noted that you or the party hasn't said a thing about the income tax threshold. I remember about 2 years ago, or about 18 months ago, you mentioned that your party would be interested in increasing the threshold, the income tax threshold, about $3 million. I haven't heard a lot about that. What happened to that policy plan?
Well, it's under review. At this time, there have been some increases in the threshold, and we've seen the costings of it. Some of these things, when you don't have access to all of the information that the government has with the Ministry of Finance and literally a few thousand technocrats supporting their work. We don't have access to that. So we're anticipating further increases over time, but that's not part of the presentation that we made because it's already underway and we are comfortable with that, but we'll keep it under review.
All right, thank you. Damien, you've often spoken about the benefits of a more educated population to the fight against crime and increase in quality of life for Jamaicans. Just listening to your numbers you outlined just now, about 6,000 people would benefit from this degree per household program. Is that significant enough over 3-4 years to, achieve the transformation you're looking for?
Okay, well, first of all, that 6,000 persons would be in years 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the university, not over 4 years of the budget. So that 6,000 will be benefiting in year 1. There'll be some who will graduate and then others that will come in. Now, what are the benefits of a degree? The first reality is that many of the maladies of our society doesn't exist in households with degrees. Households with degrees are less likely to have persons with illiteracy within them. Households with degrees are less likely to have persons with malnutrition within them. Houses with degree are less likely to have persons participating in criminal activity, especially murder within them. Houses with degrees are less likely to have insufficient housing and in access to health care because of cost. And so therefore, if within our first 5 years, we can get graduating almost, that will be 10, 12,000 graduates, and in line, another 15,000 persons coming forward, it would have been a massive achievement in our first 5 years. Now, if you should understand that a country is a going concern, my life is not the limit of our country, then it means that within 20 years, what change would that have been? And had we started this in 2000, then we'd have already achieved it. So is it sufficient to immediately transform the society? No, it is sufficient to immediately transform 6,000 households, which will have about 4 persons per household. And therefore, we believe that this is a necessary thing that no government with the interests of the people could criticize. And that is something we are going to immediately implement as soon as we get power. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Siobhan Campbell, Nationwide News. Just two questions to, I believe it was Damien who brought up the matter of the school feeding program. So I suppose I'll be putting that to you. Has the costing for that, I noticed you used the unit cost for food. You said $480 to feed an individual. Does that factor in the logistics and administrative costs as well? And further, why not simply just expand the PATH program school feeding rather than create an entirely new initiative to save the potential administrative and other costs attached?
All right. We haven't seen how this our new system. However, current $180 per meal considered all costs including transportation. I don't believe each school is growing in flour or rice. So by extension, it would consider all of those costs. So what we have done, first of all, is to increase the number of persons that benefit exponentially. I think a reasonable question is, why is the Ministry of Education currently not feeding the 400,000 that the Ministry of Finance suggests are in need? The second reality is that we have exponentially increased the number of children that are going to benefit. And we will create all the necessary steps and programs that will make it be the most efficient and the least thievery. We know, as a matter of reminder to the nation, that the government of Jamaica had many who participated in the robbery of nutritional products, which is the school feeding program for our children. So what we have seen, first of all, is discrimination, where PATH program children are being put in a different line, having a different food and feeling as if they are inadequate as people. We'll end that with immediate effect by having a nutritious meal of the same type to all our children that are going to be available. So is it going to be an expansion of this current strategy? We'll have to review all the systems that they have in place. We may have a different strategy. What we know is that it will be better, it will be further, and it will be more inefficient and much more nutritious. I can guarantee that as well.
Efficient.
100% more efficient.
More inefficient. Yeah,
more efficient, more effective, more nutritious, more children, and more value. Thank you very much.
And then to you, Mr. Golding, the people were now wondering, why was this costing not added into your budget presentation as part of that budget exercise? Because as understood, it is a budget debate presentation. So why is this costing now coming to the people rather than during the actual budget debates?
Late but to reach.
The presentation I made was quite comprehensive. It covered a lot of different things. There were other areas that I would want to touch on, which I didn't want to make it too long. The Prime Minister spoke for nearly 5 hours, I think. I didn't think that was appropriate. So, you know, we didn't put in costings because we didn't feel that was necessary in the presentation itself.
Not talks, the Prime Minister quarreled for 5 hours. I don't like talk, nice things them too much. The Prime Minister never talked for 5 hours. The Prime Minister quarreled for 5 hours. Okay, correction.
We weren't producing a budget. This is what I think is very important. The Minister said it was an implied budget we were presenting. That's not the case. We are presenting our policy priorities for our first term in office. We know how to. We have costed them, as we've explained today, how they break down. 23 billion is our estimate for all of the things that we have put forward as a charge to the budget. Some of the other things will be paid for by the public bodies which relate to those things. And then there's the NHT, which we're going to stop the extraction of resources from. The government has not said the cost of the capital allowances, which was one of the revenue measures that the minister announced in her budget presentation. She has said that land and buildings and equipment for companies, they're going to get an accelerated capital allowance. There was no costing attached to that in her numbers. That is very irresponsible. We don't know what that's going to cost. Nobody has said a word about it. I'd love Nationwide to raise that, you know, issue an article and you can use what I just said in it, so that your many clientele who would listen to you would be happy to hear that, I'm sure. Not so many, but you know, no doubt,
insult.
Loyal to you.
Oh,
so yes,
the golden. That's an insult. You're telling Nationwide that only a few people Mr. Golden listens to them. Oh no, Mr. Golden, that's harsh. Mr. Golden, that is harsh. Coming from you, Mr. Golden, that's quite a harsh thing.
Accelerated capital allowance. There was no costing attached to that in her numbers. That is very irresponsible. We don't know what that's going to cost. Nobody has said a word about it. I'd love Nationwide to raise that. You know, issue an article, and you can use what I just said in it, so that your many clientele who would listen to you would be happy to hear that, I'm sure. Not so many, but you know, no doubt loyal to you. So yes, that's the answer. We've decided to present it separately as part of in this press conference, only because of the malign and inaccurate comments made by the minister yesterday in her closing of the presentation. We are in opposition, and we put forward ideas and proposals, and we cast them with the benefit of the information available to us, which of course is significantly more limited than what's available. We put in place, we at least have revenue estimates, which we never used to have, a fiscal policy paper with projections, which the minister has to sign off on. So she can't tell me that she never meant what she said in here. She sign it. So that is what we have been using in order to deliver the costing of our proposals.
Liver.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Siobhan asked one of my
Thanks,
questions,
Betty.
so I'll only ask one. You said yesterday in Parliament that what you've presented, the proposals that you presented, are programs that are going to be implemented over the life of our People's National Party government.
Yeah.
Can you tell the people of Jamaica what programs you intend to implement in year 1, year 2 going forward? Just kind of give us an idea of what are you going to prioritize year 1 and
education.
Yes, so based on the budget as presented by the government, which is going to be the budget that we inherit when we form government, you know, that budget is already going to be in effect because it will be passed on Friday in the Senate, and the next fiscal year starts next week, Tuesday. So it will be the budget that we have to work within initially. But when we enter and we are rolling out our programs, we will, based on the numbers that we have seen, we anticipate being able to implement all of them initially. If, for example, there is a hurricane or something has happened that has thrown out the projections, we will have to make adjustments accordingly. But based on what's in the fiscal policy paper, we anticipate being able to do it. If we recognize at that time that we can't do all 23 plus the 11.4 in the first year of our tenure, then the things that we would be prioritizing are the things that we feel would have the biggest impact on economic growth. Reason being, because economic growth is going to generate more fiscal space to pay for everything else. So things like helping the farmers, that would be critical. Things like the First in Family program, that would be important too, because we want more students to be encouraged. Our Student Loan Bureau changes, for example, the MSME policy. By the way, the MSME policy is not a fiscal cost, because these are businesses that don't currently exist. They're not paying any tax now. By giving them an exemption for 3 years, we're not taking it's not going to be losing any current revenue. I think that's been overlooked by people. Not to mention the pro-box moment and the madness of saying it's $11 billion a year.
Okay. So to Mr. Golding, just to follow up on that question asked, then you pointed out that obviously your priorities will not be the same as the government currently in power, and certainly there's things that you don't have access to in terms of information, but clearly you should, as you see in opposition, see areas where the government has put their priorities that you feel can be deprioritized to implement your programs. What would be those areas?
I don't want to comment on that now, because we have to look at every line item when we come into office carefully. And there are some things that we may defer. There's some things that we may accelerate. There's some things that we may discontinue. And I don't want to attempt to foreshadow that yet, but I'm confident that we can find the 6.4% of the 360 billion to pay for what we have come up with. And as I've said, based on the fiscal policy paper, that doesn't even seem like it's going to be necessary anyway.
Finally, from me, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister hammered home this matter of what FinSAC did in terms of the impact on the country's debt and your potential role in that debacle in the 1990s. Do you accept that narrative as put forward? And do you feel that FinSAC, as it played out in the 1990s, was damaging to the Jamaican economy?
What has been a real waste of expenditure is over $100 million that the government spent on a commission of inquiry, which has not delivered a report. That's a scandal. Over $100 million spent on getting the facts as to what took place, and they have not published a report. FinSAC ensured that in a crisis in the financial sector, depositors didn't lose any money. Pensioners didn't lose any money. Persons who had insurance didn't lose any money. That was the purpose of FinSAC. And yes, it cost the country quite a lot of money, and we took time to work our way out of that. We're now at 68% debt to GDP ratio. That era is long gone. I had no role in FinSAC whatsoever. I was in the private sector there. I was an attorney at law, and I was involved in business as well. So, you know, that was an environment we all had to navigate who were in the sector at that time. And we did it skillfully enough that we never had to ask FinSAC for any support. Thank you.
Yeah, one final question.
Dwayne, just before you go, I'm wondering if Nationwide would ask
for the ghost of FinSAC. I think the Jamaica Labour Party should write a book about FinSAC. Give us the film, the documentary that Nigel Clark promised us, because we want to the dopey on screen. Because when we're born, we're here about the dopey called FinSAC. We want to see FinSAC on TV now. A full-time FinSAC reach on TV. From the time we're here about FinSAC, FinSAC can't just lay down in a hammock. A swing from side to side, so it's about time FinSAC has been made in a two-story documentary. What do you think, Jamaica Labour Party, for the ghost of FinSAC?
Ask the Prime Minister, how is it that he can explain how other people got riches, but he's unable to explain his own riches according to the Integrity Commission?
No, sir. No, sir. They come for beat Nationwide, did they, you know? No, Jesus. Lord, I don't know why Cliff Judd Davis and Mahir Stewart never come. Why you not send Chevron Campbell to come take the leak? And you make the trouble, you know. Especially George Davis, even though Chevron Campbell make trouble sometime too. But George Davis and Cliff Hughes, George Davis and Cliff Hughes to come take the beating, but they might get the rubbing to the door.
Dwayne?
Yeah, thanks, Dayton. One final question, Mr. Golding, and I hope you I crave indulgence.
Never had to ask FinSAC for any support. Thank you.
Yeah, one final question.
Dwayne, just before you go, I'm wondering if Nationwide would ask the Prime Minister, how is it that he can explain how other people got riches, but he's unable to explain his own riches according to the Integrity Commission? Dwayne?
Yeah, thanks, Dayton. One final question, Mr. Golding, and I hope I crave indulgence because it's not quite related to the budget, but it could be related to the budget depending on how we tread in relations to our diplomatic relationship with the United States. As you know, Mr. Rubio is in Jamaica. What particular area you want the Prime Minister and indeed regional leaders to discuss with Mr. Rubio today and into tomorrow?
This Mother's Day at Morrison's, feed your family for £10. Get a whole British chicken and 4 sides with your More card.
More reasons to shop at Morrison's.
Do you work in finance? And you're tired of no one listening?
I think that in dealing with these matters, it's good to put forward a united position as CARICOM. You know, I think the nations of CARICOM together have significant voting power in international and regional bodies. So I'm in favor of CARICOM having a joint position rather than Jamaica or any other member of CARICOM going alone. Issues to do with immigration, issues to do with energy policy, etc., etc. And there's only one government at a time in power, you know, and right now the Jamaica Labour Party are in power. I think they're meeting with Mr. Rubio today, the Prime Minister, and we'll see what comes out of that. But my preference on these matters is that there's a united CARICOM position so that the US knows what the region feels about these things and we can work out solutions that are win-win. We want to have win-win solutions. Jamaica has many, many people living in the United States. We're reliant on remittances from there and other countries, etc. Travel advisories can be damaging to our tourism industry. So we have to be respectful and sensible and strategic in how we approach these matters. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to close by saying that after 9 years in office, and only 18% of our students passing 5 subjects to include math and English, we now hear the government talking about choosing Jamaica. After 9 years in office and 55% of the population unable to feed themselves properly, they're now speaking about choosing Jamaica. After 9 years in office and 70% increase in the import bill of food items into the country, they're now speaking about choosing Jamaica. After 9 years in office and giving themselves 300% and offering impecunious returns to the minimum wage earners, they're now speaking about choosing Jamaica.
To be fair, Dayton, if you listen to you would think a JLP alone get the 300% pay rise, and the whole of them enjoy the 300% our money. So make it sound that way there. Right, we're going to move over now to the other press conference because you know it was a day full of press conference. So we are going to go to the other hour. The other wara. We're going to listen argument here now. Much of ado about Minister Foreign Secretary. Let's move right into Marco Holness and Andrew Rubio. The easy there, one. Hurry up, Andrew Scranjo.
Good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to welcome United States Secretary of State, the Honorable Marco Rubio, to Jamaica. Now, I have known Secretary of State Rubio for some time, and I've always been very impressed by his deep knowledge of the region. Jamaica is deeply honored that you have chosen to visit us first on your official visit to the English-speaking Caribbean. This visit so early in your term confirms the strength of historic friendship and strategic partnership between Jamaica and the United States, one built on shared values, democratic ideals, and people-to-people ties. Our nations have long been united by a common commitment to freedom, prosperity, and security. And
right. That bit got me today. That our nation, meaning America and Jamaica, is committed to freedom and prosperity. The prosperity part, Prime Minister, got me because I was not aware of that part, you see. Given that we have been waiting for decades, and you came along and you promised us because you've seen that we never get it. And you came along and you promised us, Prime Minister, and we still not see it. And you're gone on stage side of the US where at least the amount of bad the US doing at this world, in can say, in look after in people them at home to some degree. And you turn upside of them and talk about prosperity, sir. This really shows that you're not no shame.
Your visit today reaffirms this bond. Today, we engaged in productive and constructive discussions focused on strengthening this partnership and expanding opportunities for collaboration. During our meeting, we addressed several critical areas of cooperation. Security, one major area. We reaffirmed our commitment to enhancing cooperation in combating transnational crime, ensuring the collective safety of our citizens, and mutually secured borders. We discussed a global war on gangs and their...
Hey, Coach, shut up. Mine are getting a big Nancy this evening. A global war on gangs, the Prime Minister says. You remember when President Bush declared a war on terror? You remember what happened? Terrorism went up. The same Americans who declare a war on terror funded terror groups and terror organizations, albeit to take down another party or group or government they were fighting against. Hi, Andrew Holness. Go and talk, sir. Go and talk. Go and talk.
Is already significant policy alignment with both countries in this regard. The United States has been instrumental in supporting Jamaica's efforts to bolster its marine domain awareness and intelligence surveillance capabilities, which are crucial in our fight against organized criminal networks. We discussed expanded and repurposing development assistance towards our shared goals, including security. This will exponentially expand our cooperation in fighting lottery scammers, transnational organized crimes, trafficking in guns, and building safer communities.
How would that work with Dr. Chang? Stacy, and good evening. I mean, the cameraman, they're slick, you know. When it comes to trafficking guns, the cameraman turned the camera right on Dr. Chang. How them slick so? How them know? Say Dr. Chang them attack. But how Andrew Holness? This is the problem I can't understand. We don't know. We do not fight all of these trafficking. All of these trafficking in Andrew Holness, it happen between businessmen and politicians, you know. See the fraughty galang in our whatever him name in a Portland. Or whichever part of the eastern or northern section of Jamaica. These are the things where we can't understand when we talk. Because on the same one, I import the drugs and the gun. I on the same one, I fund the gangs. And then when you come in a public, come double talk when expect if you believe, no one say, on the same one, I bring in the guns and give in to the gangs. I don't get that bit.
We are committed in ensuring our partnership delivers results in driving down criminality and trafficking in this hemisphere. On Haiti, we look forward to continued partnership with the United States as we seek to work with the Haitian leadership and stakeholders to address the ongoing crises in Haiti. The extraordinary humanitarian, civil, and national security challenges in Haiti pose an acute threat to Haitians, to regional stability, and indeed to its close neighbors, including Jamaica. We agreed that we must do everything we can to stabilize the security situation in Haiti so that they are better able to build capacity and address their political and humanitarian challenges. On trade, recognizing the United
Prime Minister, both you and the US wicked and naive in this sense. The US have never bring resolution to any global problem. What make you think Haiti would be any different? If the US could bring any global situation under control, certainly not Haiti, what the US ought to do, what the US is required to do, is stop interfering in Haiti's politics, and a lot of the problem will be solved. When the people of Haiti can decide how their country is run, what God they serve, that's when you will see peace coming to Haiti. But as long as people like UK and France rather and US continue to meddle in the affairs of Haiti, it's going to be always a turbulent situation. I mean, Jamaica cannot deal with a few gangs at home, which these Jamaican gangs are really sissy when it comes to the Haitian gangs. And if we can't deal with a few sissy at home, what meaningful contribution, Prime Minister, do you think Jamaica can give to dangerously armed rebels in Haiti if we can't even fight a few bleach out slippers and socks wearing gangsters at home?
United States as Jamaica's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade surpassing $3 billion in 2023, we explored avenues to further expand trade relations between our two countries. The renewal of the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Act was raised as a matter of critical importance to trade for ourselves and for all CARICOM member states. We also explored means to attract increased US investment into Jamaica's emerging sectors. With our stable macroeconomic framework and positive growth trajectory, Jamaica is open for enhanced US investment across multiple sectors, including energy and nearshoring. In terms of logistics, the discussion touched on working with US companies to leverage Jamaica's location as a premier transshipment hub in the Americas, and this will further bolster Jamaica's work as a major logistics hub for global trade. On labor issues, the United States and Jamaica have enjoyed an 80-year-old history relationship in terms of bilateral labor agreements, where we provide short-term skilled and semi-skilled labor in sectors such as agriculture and hospitality. We discuss ways to expand and enhance these agreements, including skills development partnerships to upskill and reskill Jamaican workers. On our travel advisory, we discussed significant progress that we're making in bringing down all major crimes, and that Jamaica today is
Jamaica today is the safest it has ever been in 20 years. Now you see what Holness was working to when him pushing these figures up on us. Make him tell you
safer than at any time in the last 2 decades. expand and enhance these agreements, including skills development partnerships to upskill and reskill Jamaican workers. On our travel advisory, we discussed significant progress that we're making in bringing down all major crimes, and that Jamaica today is safer than at any time in the last 2 decades. In fact, crimes against visitors represent less than 0.01% of the more than 3 million visitors to Jamaica annually. We are committed to working collaboratively to ensure that travel advisories reflect the current realities and promote travel to Jamaica. I'm confident that the dialogue initiated today will lead to tangible outcomes, benefiting both our peoples and contributing to mutual stability and prosperity. Indeed, our concern for enhanced regional and hemispheric security and prosperity was recognized as a shared one. I wish my CARICOM colleagues who are now in Kingston productive meetings as well with the Secretary this afternoon. Jamaica remains committed to fostering a partnership with the United States, one grounded in mutual respect, shared values, and a collective ambition for stronger and a more resilient future. I extend my sincere gratitude to Secretary Rubio and his delegation for their visit and for the productive and forward-looking discussions we have had. We look forward to building upon this foundation, deepening our collaboration, and taking our partnership to new and greater heights for the lasting benefit of both our nations. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for joining us, and I now give the floor to Secretary Rubio for his press statement.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, first of all, thank you for the very warm welcome. On Tuesday was I completed my 9th week on the job, so I told you I'd be here early. I think that's pretty early, and I'm glad to be here so soon. Thank you to the Foreign Minister as well for welcoming me. And
yes, Deidre Jerk, for you listen to the way how Andrew Holness argument is crafted in this press conference, he's basically playing the crime numbers in order to get a favorable travel advisory so them can bring in them tourist friends to make money off, really. But it's not that he cares about Jamaica people and crime. It's more about making Jamaica look appealing to people abroad. But they need to understand that beyond the Prime Minister's crime figure, massaged crime figure, there is the news, and there is also people on the ground and in the community. They must also remember as well that people are also afraid of wanton lawless killing by the police as well.
All the work we do together and to the people of Jamaica. The ties, I would say, between the United States and Jamaica don't need to be explained. They're incredibly strong. And in particular, my home state of Florida, we were commenting close, 800,000 to 1 million Jamaican expatriates who call the United States home. And I asked, it was just in Florida, because it's a very vibrant community that's contributed so much to the place that I've called home for so long. And so we have a shared history that's tied together by people. I also would say that some substantial percentage of Americans have traveled here at some point in their lives. And that also binds countries together. Nothing binds countries and cultures more closely together than people. And we certainly have that in common. And we want to continue to make sure that we build on that. We did touch on a couple of topics. The first is trade. The world has been closely followed. The president is in the midst of realigning American global trade policy, primarily to reset global trade in a way that's fair to the U.S. after 20 or 30 years of what we've
resetting global trade in a way favorable to the U.S. So in all of this is all about the U.S. benefit, not equal partners benefit is about prioritizing U.S. dominance. That's all it is about. Prioritizing U.S. dominance.
We believe is unfairness, not when it comes to Jamaica, but broader. And from that will come real opportunities to create new alignments and new trade arrangements and new trade opportunities. And I believe Jamaica is one of those places that together we both stand to benefit. In particular, we discussed supply chains. And we ask ourselves, why, if so many of these products are destined for the North American market, why are so many of the productive capacities located halfway around the world? And there's a lot of different reasons why that's happened. But it makes all the sense in the world to see more productive capacity, more manufacturing, more industry relocated into our hemisphere. We certainly have the labor and the population and the desire to do so in our hemisphere. It's closer to the end markets. And so we want to pursue opportunities to make that possible. And clearly, I think Jamaica is one of those places that could benefit. And the Prime Minister has that vision.
Right. What Marco Rubio is speaking about here, like bringing industries back to the Western Hemisphere, it's not really a policy. It's not like President Trump is expected to do 2 terms. This is a 4-year rant. And it's not like Marco and President Trump have a clear policy. They're going to look at ways. Looking at ways is not having a clear policy to say, this is what we're putting on the table in contrast to what we are requesting of you.
For the country and the creation of not just jobs, but jobs that pay even better than the jobs that maybe some could find now. So it's an opportunity I think would be mutually beneficial, and we're going to actively seek and look for ways to make that possible. I also think there's extraordinary opportunities for investment, and we talked about it. Whether
actually look and seek for ways to make that possible. That means it's not anything of a plan them have. It's just something for either fool we, the public, after they gave Andrew an order, which rather before his visa or saving himself from prison for that matter, he has to follow. Not necessarily, though, in the interest of the Jamaica people.
Whether it's particularly in energy. The United States is going to be producing a lot of liquefied natural gas, which is a very clean fuel that we have in abundance and that we seek to export. And it's also critical, by the way, you cannot have manufacturing without reliable and affordable energy. And so it's one of those things that I think potentially we could continue to partner along with other things, whether it's mining opportunities off the seabed, in essence, to utilize all of the resources of the country in a responsible way.
Mining opportunities off the seabed. Mining opportunities off the seabed. I wonder what our government is hiding from us. Them say we not find no oil. Them say no oil not there. I wonder what Marco go mine for off the seabed.
That protects your environment, that protects your not just jobs, but jobs that pay even better than the jobs that maybe some could find now. So it's an opportunity I think would be mutually beneficial, and we're going to actively seek and look for ways to make that possible. I also think there's extraordinary opportunities for investment, and we talked about it, whether it's particularly in energy. The United States is going to be producing a lot of liquefied natural gas, which is a very clean fuel that we have in abundance and that we seek to export. And it's also critical, by the way, you cannot have manufacturing without reliable and affordable energy. And so it's one of those things that I think potentially we could continue to partner along with other things, whether it's mining opportunities off the seabed, in essence, to utilize all of the resources of the country in a responsible way that protects your environment, that protects your natural beauty, but at the same time is generating income and opportunity of employment for the people. Ultimately, that's governments have 2 prime responsibilities: the safety and the prosperity of their people. And your prime minister and his government is very focused on those 2 priorities. We did talk about
come out of our business. Well, you know about where going in Jamaica. You don't even know where going in Florida around you. You don't even know where going in a country. Don't talk about Andrew committed to nothing. What you know Andrew committed to? Please, butt out.
About tourism, because obviously it's a significant part of your economy, and we pledged we were going to go back and reevaluate the travel advisories as they currently stand to ensure that they do reflect the reality of the new numbers and what the numbers show, because you've made very impressive progress in your general numbers overall when it comes to the murder rate and so forth. But in particular, with those travel advisories are designed to American travelers. And I think we need to analyze that and just ensure that the status we're currently in.
So you realize that the massaging of the crime figure is to appease the United States in order to get a favorable travel advisory, not necessarily that the Prime Minister is concerned about how crime affects the people of Jamaica or how the people feel about crime in our country. It's about the Prime Minister looking good.
And accurately reflects the status quo and takes into account the progress you've already made this year and made last year, year over year, which I think is one of the highest numbers in terms of reductions that we've seen of any country in the region. We have to.
And remember, when the travel advisory came last year, that really rubbed them the wrong way up the wall. From then, the Prime Minister is on a tangent to make sure him fix the figures in order to get the result what he wants. If it is that the police have to go around and killing young men extrajudicially in order to get the Prime Minister crime rate down, so be it.
Talk about security, and I think that the Prime Minister has phrased it in a way that I think is very beneficial, and that is, he used the term global war on gangs. Maybe we'll find some other phraseology in the United States to describe it, but we're talking about the same problem. It's amazing if you look across the region, and really many.
So basically, Andrew, Marco said, your description of global war on gang, I'm not going to refer to that bullshit. I'll find something else. If it never sounds like bullshit, Andrew, you probably would have pick it up and run with it. But everybody knows they are bullshit. Everybody see when President Bush announcing global war and terror, we all see how terrorism escalated.
Parts of the world. How many of the threats we face in the world now that once came from a ideological terrorist organization or from a nation state are now coming from non-governmental criminal organizations who in some cases are more powerful than the governments in some of these countries. And we've confronted this issue. It's a challenge in Mexico. It's a challenge on the border between Venezuela and Colombia. It is the challenge in Haiti. And it's been a challenge here. And it's a multifaceted challenge. They are transnational for a number of reasons. One, as an example, is, and we've acknowledged this in our conversations that lead back to my time in the United States Senate, how many of the guns and the weapons that are being used by gangs to commit acts of violence here in Jamaica are purchased in the United States and then shipped here. And we want to commit to doing more to stopping that flow at the same time as we do more to commit to increasing your capacity. That's the other thing I underline. What we're talking about here when we talk about American assistance is America helping Jamaica build its own capacity, its own ability to confront these challenges and solve these problems. Because security is a baseline for everything. And to that end, we have some good things to announce today here. We've the Jolt Fusion Center that is starting up again, and that's been even further strengthened. That's going to help address lottery scamming. We can announce this synthetics detection equipment for the Jamaica's forensic labs. Another counter gang recruitment program that we seek to launch as a result of our visit here today. and announce something that I think is really important, and that is software, intelligence software for the law enforcement here in Jamaica to combat gangs, things like night vision goggles as well, technology, and we look to do more. And on that end, let me touch on a topic that we talked about just a little bit. Well, I'll touch on one other topic, then I'll get to this final one. On you mentioned.
I was listening at some point in this press conference when he was speaking about the security issue to see if the word body cam for police officers was gonna come up, but it just never did.
Upskilling and helping. How can we? It's a topic we hadn't touched on directly, extensively before. We talked about it today. We seek to go back and find ways that we can partner to create opportunities for skills training, so that if those companies, and we can attract those companies, if we can attract, whether it's a logistics center or manufacturing, to come to Jamaica, there's a workforce that's been equipped with the skills needed. Now, we face this challenge domestically as well. We need to do that ourselves, but there may be things that we can do in collaboration with one another. And this touches on the issue of aid, very controversial in the United States, but it's one of the reasons why I wanted to come here today, because it in many ways highlights exactly what our vision for aid moving forward is. The United States is not getting out of the aid business. We are going to be providing foreign aid. The difference is, we want to provide foreign aid in a way that is strategically aligned with our foreign policy priorities and the priorities of our host countries and our nation states that we're partners with. In essence, how that would work, how it has worked in the past, is USAID or some other entity would come into a country and say, this is what we think you need. And then they go out and hire an NGO that maybe are the ones that convinced them that that's what you need. And they give them a bunch of money and they come into the country and they do things. Some of these programs are fine. They're nice things. Other times, not so much. Nonetheless, that's how it used to be. How we want it to be in the future is that our embassies are involved with the host government, our hosts, our partners. And we ask them, what are your needs? And we provide assistance geared towards the needs of the nation states that are hosting us and that we're partnering with. At the end, our partner in Jamaica, our partner all over the world, is the government. It's the host governments who have a clear vision for the future. And to the extent that our foreign aid can be helpful.
You hear, Andrew? So, they take the body promoting money because they say their partners when it comes to US aid are governments, government-ents, Andrew Holness. So don't come out here, come talk like I know you take the money.
It is in furtherance of what the people of your country have elected you to carry out. Here, there are a lot of things, we've just described some of them. What should our foreign aid be geared towards? It should be geared towards looking for opportunities to increase skills training, looking for opportunities to attract investment and business and trade, and looking obviously for opportunities to expand on your own domestic intelligence capabilities. We are going to have foreign aid that is aligned to our foreign policy, and our foreign policy is going to be aligned to our mutual shared interests with the partners that we have all over the world. And I can tell you, Jamaica is an incredible partner to the United States. It's very cooperative on a number of fronts, and we will continue to work together, and we're going to work closer than we've ever worked before, because we are now going to have U.S. programs for foreign aid that are going to be aligned with the vision that you've elected your leaders to carry out for your country, and that benefits us both. And so I thank you for the opportunity to visit with you here today and talk about these things. I'm excited that we're going to be able to follow up on a lot of them and show real progress.
I'm glad he explained this little bit here, because a lot of people think that U.S. aid generally operates like a charity. That's not exactly how it operates. It's the vehicle, the money, the aid, whatever support you get through the aid, whether be it's money or logistic support or technical support, whatever support you get through aid, it is not a charitable thing. It is not a charitable thing. It is the vehicle for the U.S. foreign policy. But what Donald Trump wants to use aid to do is to drive his personal agenda rather than the old deep state U.S. foreign policy. But U.S. AID must not be viewed as something charitable. It's kind of not. It's actually the vehicle for U.S. Dictatorial oppression.
The message that I've wanted to send in my travels, I've had to travel a couple of other places, but I've been to the hemisphere now twice, is very simple. And that is that the United States wants to ensure that when countries are cooperative and work with us and partner with us and constantly seek ways to engage us, that leads to positive results and outcomes.
That's not true, Marco. We remember the late 70s into the 80s. Michael Manley refused to cooperate with the Americans. They overthrew Michael Manley and Seaga partnership with them. We didn't get anything beneficial. The deal continues same way under PJ, Portia, Bruce, now Andrew. We still haven't seen anything. So Marco, that's an utter lie you told there. We're not seeing nothing out of no partnership with the United States.
It's not, you can call it rewarding, but what it really means is it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. And we want countries in the world and we want countries in the region to identify being close to the United States as something that is beneficial and helpful to develop, helpful to grow, and frankly, helpful so that one day many countries can serve, and I think in Jamaica is already doing this, as a model.
United States, look around you. Look within your Western Hemisphere. Look at the geographical region alone around you, United States. You have not allowed or assist those countries to develop. Hence, United States is why your backyard as well as your country is a third world derelict picture of things. But look at the regions in your backyard, United States. Is because the partnership you have with them, you have failed them as a partner given the powerful giant you are, the amount that you have spent on war. Look at the countries within your hemisphere, whether be South and Central America, whether be the Caribbean or whatever. You have not assisted or allowed them. Remember, you invade them when them do something where to move them country forward where you know like you invade them, United States. So I don't see what Marco talk about where nobody inherit. And this is why it's dangerous that Jamaica is doubling up and follow a crazy Donald Trump.
Of what other countries would seek to emulate, whether it's on security, on trade, on investment, on skills acquisition and improvement. These are the things that we want America's relationship with our partners to look like. And I can think of no better friend in the Caribbean and frankly in the Western Hemisphere than Jamaica and your government, Mr. Prime Minister. And so we thank you for this chance to visit with you so early. And as I joked a couple times, but I'll say it again, I think I told it to the camera.
Another beautiful country. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Remarks just now?
Right. This is the funny part of things. They only took questions from 4 journalists. Of the room full that was there, both US and Jamaica. They only took questions from 4 journalists. Listen.
We have several members of the media from Jamaica and the United States in the room with us this afternoon, but we will only be taking 4 questions. And I ask that those who have been selected, that you please stand as you ask your question. And our first question is going to be from John Hudson of the Washington Post.
Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, Republican Congressman Don.
He came with me. Don't say I don't take you to nice places.
And thank you for the hospitality. Beautiful weather, beautiful country. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mr. Secretary, Republican Congressman Don Bacon weighed in on the Signal Chat breach, saying the White House is, quote, in denial that this was not classified or sensitive data. They should just own up to it and preserve credibility. Do you think that's true? Also, here in Jamaica, there are USAID employees at our embassy, like so many others around the world, on administrative leave, not carrying out the work of the American people. Do you worry that the DOGE effort won't ultimately end up benefiting U.S. taxpayers? And Prime Minister, violence and instability remains in Haiti. What would you like to see from the United States in terms of being a productive force? And a State Department envoy yesterday called the presence of Cuban doctors in Jamaica and elsewhere human trafficking. Do you agree with that? Thank you.
Let me take the first. I've already addressed the aid one, but let me address it again. This is not about getting rid of aid. This is about restructuring how we're going to do aid. And when you restructure, there's some disruption, but it has to happen. By the way, this is not an idea. This is an idea Condoleezza Rice wanted. This is an idea multiple secretaries of state throughout time have tried to achieve. And we intend to achieve it because we think it makes all the sense in the world. So I recognize that there's disruption involved when you make reform and you make change, but it's necessary because our foreign policy and our foreign aid have to be aligned. Foreign aid is an instrument of foreign policy. Okay? It is not a global charity. Jamaica's not asking for charity. They're asking for development assistance so they can become stronger at their security needs and other things of this nature. That's what they're asking for. They're not asking for a handout. They're asking for a hand up, help to build their capabilities so that they become a self-reliant partner and frankly could end up and already are helping other countries. Jamaica now is contributing to the effort in Haiti as an example. So these are the kinds of things we want to see in our foreign aid. So look, our goal was not to disrupt anyone's life. Our goal was to restructure the way we deliver foreign aid so that it is aligned with our foreign policy and with what we're trying to carry out at our respective missions around the world. On the first question, let me just say on the signal thing, this thing was set up for purposes of coordinating how everyone was going to call, when these things happen, I need to call foreign ministers, especially of our close allies. We need to notify members of Congress. Other members of the team have different people they need to notify as well. And that was the purpose of why it was set up. Obviously, someone made a mistake. Someone made a big mistake and added a journalist. Nothing against journalists, but you ain't supposed to be on that thing. So they got on there and this happened. I've been, so I can speak to myself or my presence on it. I think my role on it was just speaking for my role. I contributed to it twice. I identified my point of contact, which is my chief of staff. And then later on, I think 3 hours after the White House's official announcements had been made, I congratulated the members of the team. I've been assured by the Pentagon and everyone involved that none of the information that was on there, though not intended to be divulged, obviously that was a mistake and that shouldn't have happened and the White House is looking at it, but that none of the information on there at any point threaten the operation or the lives of our servicemen. And in fact, it was a very successful operation and it's an ongoing operation. But that was the intent behind it. And again, I think the Pentagon's made it clear that nothing on there would have endangered the lives or the mission. And the mission's been very successful.
Is it classified, the information?
Well, the Pentagon says it was not. And not only did they say it was not, they make very clear that it didn't put in danger anyone's life or the mission. There was no intelligence information. And understand, when this story first broke, they were sort of alluding to were there war maps, or there was no war plans on there. This was a sort of description of what we could inform our counterparts around the world when the time came to do so. Again, look, I think the White House is looking at this entire thing. How did that journalist get on there? Why was this the appropriate? I think there'll be reforms and changes made. So this was not going to happen again. It can't. But I wanted everybody to understand why this thing was even set up in the first place, and also understand very clearly the mission was successful and at no point was it endangered. And that's coming from the highest ranking officials at the agency that was in charge of the actual operation, which is the Pentagon.
In terms of Haiti, the United States has been an incredible partner, in fact, the lead partner in ensuring that resources and organization is brought to the crisis in Haiti. In terms of what more could be done, I think we're at a phase in Haiti where there has to be a rapid expansion of the Haitian National Police, the HNP, in terms of the manpower and resources, because ultimately the HNP has to take on the gangs. The present holding situation that we have is not necessarily moving the situation forward as we would all like. So there would have to be the expansion in resources in support of the HNP to enable them to take on the gangs. In terms of Cuban doctors in Jamaica, let us be clear. The Cuban doctors in Jamaica have been incredibly helpful to us. Jamaica has a deficit in health personnel, primarily because many of our health personnel have migrated to other countries. We are, however, very careful.
No, man, you visit to countries like the United States.
Not to exploit the Cuban doctors who are here. We ensure that they are treated within our labor laws and benefit like any other worker. So any characterization of the program by others certainly would not be.
Not by others, by the United States. Not by others, Prime Minister, by the United States.
Be applicable to Jamaica. We are ensuring that our program complies with all the international laws and standards to which we are a party to.
Right, our next question will come from Tana Thomas from Nationwide News Network. Please stand.
Secretary Rubio, my question is, or questions in relation to the matter of the Cuban Medical Corporation program as well. So the medical mission has been a cornerstone of healthcare in Jamaica and the Caribbean for over 50 years, according to our foreign minister. How does the U.S. reconcile its stance on this program with the region's reliance on Cuban medical professionals, and what alternatives does it propose to ensure healthcare?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing is to separate medical from the labor issues that we are pointing to. Okay, this is not about doctors. This is not about the provision of medical assistance. We have no problem with medical assistance. We have no problem with doctors. We have a problem, and I'm not speaking about Jamaica.
What I want Marco Rubio to do is to let us know the countries that are engaged in the practices that him, Biden, and Donald Trump, because Biden had that same argument going as well. Which country have you identified involving in the practice? Because this is how your propaganda works. You all have not identified a country yet that you are aware of that is involved in exploitation of Cuban health professional, Marco. Name a country.
We've discussed this today about, following international labor standards and the like, but I'm just talking about this program in general, how it's operated around the world. And how it's operated around the world is that basically the doctors are not paid. In many other parts of the world, the doctors are not paid. You pay the Cuban government. The Cuban government decides how much of anything to give them.
Where Marco, the house big, it have 190 different bedrooms or en-suites. Marco Rubio, which one of the 190 en-suite if we go in or tell we which one of them? But don't tell me around the world. Identify a country, Marco. Cubans, they're all around the world. And everybody has to, we are not engaging in any human exploitation or exploitation of Cuban doctors. Name a country, Marco Rubio. Because this is how US propaganda works. You just broad brush it.
And they take away their passports. They basically operate as forced labor in many places. Now, there are places that have better labor standards. Perhaps Jamaica is one of those, and that's fine. But I'm describing generally what the program has been. It has operated in that way in many parts of the world and placed these people in tremendous danger. And so I think we can all agree that the trafficking in labor, be they doctors or farm workers, is not something that we would want to be supportive of. And we find that to be an egregious practice on the part of the Cuban regime. Now, every country operates the program differently. And obviously, because of our relationship with Jamaica, we're going to engage with them on that and talk about it further and have a better understanding. Perhaps none of this applies in the way it's handled here, but generally, that's the problem with the program. It's not that they're Cuban doctors. It's that the regime does not pay these doctors, takes away their passports, and basically it is, in many ways, forced labor. And that we cannot be in support of. Again, not speaking about here in particular, but in general about the program.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Will Lowry from the National News.
Thank you so much for taking my question, Mr. Secretary. I just want to circle back to John's question, the signal chat.
The signal chat, yes.
But of course, are you planning on making the Europeans pay for U.S. operations against the Houthis, given that their businesses seem to benefit more from opening up these shipping lanes, as discussed in that chat? And then moving to Russia, Ukraine, I was wondering if you could elaborate on the Black Sea ceasefire deal and how it's progressing. President Zelensky has already questioned Russia's seriousness, saying, quote, they are trying to distort agreements and in fact to see both our intermediaries. Yeah.
So on the first question about, look, here's the problem, okay? These guys, these Houthis, these are pirates, okay? This is a band of, it's a gang, in essence, that's gotten control of a certain part.
It's interesting, isn't it, Marco, that the United States could refer to somebody as pirate and as gang. Marco Rubio, the biggest pirate in this world, Europe and America. The biggest gang in this world, Marco Rubio, Europe and America. Isn't it rich that uno say one can open on the mouth and talk about the same things what uno go around the world go do and blame others for it?
But these are a religious fanatic gang, and these guys have missiles, and they've launched 174.
Remember, Marco, what break the back of the U.S. economy is human exploitation. It is human exploitation that broke the back of the U.S. economy, because the U.S., in order to get cheap labor, Marco, moved its industries, its manufacturers to the east to get cheap labor, thereby bringing down the American economy. Look pa only if people don't know say a lie or no tell.
4 attacks against the U.S. Navy ships, 150-something attacks on commercial vessels. They are literally saying they've set up a toll system at the Red Sea. These ships can go, these ships cannot. They don't blow up the Chinese ships. They don't blow up somebody, but they blow up all the other ships. This is not sustainable. And so I think the point that I've made publicly is we are doing a great favor to the world.
Because, Marco, the United States, is supplying bombs to Saudi Arabia to drop on the people and children of Yemen. The United States, and Saudi Arabia is starving the children of Yemen. The Houthis are a response to U.S. and Saudi Arabia aggression. Don't come out here, Marco Rubio. Come make it look like the Houthi, them are terrorists or them are this, that. No. They are defending their people. They are defending their territory. They are defending themselves against U.S. and Saudi Arabia aggression. They are fighting back just like the people of Palestine. That's just what it is, Marco Rubio. But when we listen to UNO, the story is somewhat much different.
The United States is doing a great favor to the world, going after these guys' capability of doing this. How can we live in a world where a group like this has advanced weapons, okay, and can shut down a shipping lane and increase the cost of shipping that we're all paying for? Everything we buy, all the stuff is embedded in the cost and in the price of these things is how much it costs to ship it. And so that's just not a sustainable thing. We can't allow it. So I think the point I would make is not, we're going to make everybody pay. It's everybody should recognize we are doing the world a great favor going after these guys because this can't continue. This is unsustainable. What's next? Some gang's going to show up somewhere else and shut off another shipping lane. That's not practical. It cannot happen. So what was your first question? I was so fired up about that one that I forgot the other one. Oh, yes, that one. Easy ones. Well, look, I think yesterday our negotiators are en route, or perhaps they've already arrived after spending, I think they met with the Ukrainians twice, the Russians once. What we have here is an agreement in principle on a Black Sea ceasefire. We got two things from that. The first is we have more detailed definition of what the energy ceasefire entails. And the second is the principle concept of a Black Sea ceasefire. Obviously, after our meeting, as part of their release, the Russians detailed a number of conditions that they want to see met in order to do that. So we're going to evaluate that. Some of those conditions include sanctions that are not ours. They belong to the European Union. So we're going to be gathering and sort of when our folks get back, sitting down, going through the proposals, getting their impressions of the conversations so we can more fully understand what the Russian position is or what their ask is in exchange. And then we'll present that to the president who will ultimately make a decision about what the next step here. I think it's a good thing that we have both the Ukrainians and the Russians talking about ceasefires, be they energy or be they potentially in the Black Sea. But obviously, this is hard and difficult work. This is a protracted almost 3.5-year war now, or 3-year war. It has a lot of framework of sanctions that have been built globally now that have to be looked at as part of an ultimate end to a conflict. There's a lot of things that have to be worked through. And I certainly think the only way you're going to make progress on these things is by engaging with both sides, understanding their asks, their demands, and seeing what's possible. So we're going to have a chance now to sort of sit down as a team and evaluate when they arrive in detail how the meetings went with the Ukrainians, how the meetings went with Russia, what are the Russians asking for, what are the Ukrainians asked for, compare all that, and then make a decision on that basis about what comes next in this process. In the end, the goal here is peace. The goal is to end a war where people are dying. And I think everyone should be happy that the United States is engaged in a process of ending a war and bringing about peace. It's not going to be easy. It won't be simple. It'll take some time, but at least we're on that road and we're talking about these things and we're going to test it and see what's possible. We think we owe that to the world. And the president, I continue to say, is the only leader in the world right now, President Trump, who's in a position to even get these two nations to a city to talk about these things, albeit in rooms far apart from one another when these talks are going on. But nonetheless, they're talking. It's the first time in a while that we've seen any conversation about this, but we have a lot of work yet to be done, and we'll know more after we get the readout from our teams.
Okay, our last question will come from Andrea Chisholm from Television Jamaica.
Thank you. Secretary Rubio, given changes to U.S. immigration policies, there are some Jamaicans who are...
We can't stop this, sir. That's the upsy-daisy of it. A press conference, the United States Secretary of State is coming to Jamaica, has come to Jamaica, having bilateral talks with the Prime Minister, lectured us in a press conference, and only 4 journalists get to ask questions. 4 journalists chosen, 4 media hosts of all the media hosts there, 4 particular media hosts nationwide get to ask the first question. And then TVJ gets to ask the last question. But is it anything worthwhile? Yes, the Cuban question is a question of interest. Has Marco Rubio and Andrew answered the question? I don't think so, because the crux of the discussion is around the Cuba issue and no doubt trade with China. Otherwise, he wouldn't come and talk about the trade argument. As to the fighting crime partnership, fuck off. Like, literally, F off. If it's about fighting crime partnership. I'm not send Dr. Chang to prison. Like, seriously? We're there out here long enough, 2.5 hours, way beyond our bedtime. Globalists, we will continue tomorrow when the Prime Minister, because what the Prime Minister Marco come tell us in a press conference, we don't understand anything, we don't hear nothing. Me don't hear Marco and Andrew lay out any trade plan with Jamaica to benefit from. Them ongo go look at things. It's not no Marco no come with no plan nor anything for bargain pan. Marco just come to dictate to Andrew Holness what to do. The press statement where they release before they come, then just have that conversation in front of we. We're in line with the press statement where the United States Department put out before Marco reach. But when it come to talking to it in the public, so we understand what sort of discussion they have, what sort of agreement they reach, and what will be implemented and what time frame. Nothing. Bare hand, so some out. Empty hand and so mouth. But what we must look out for, though, is the shifting and changing of Andrew Holness's policies or arguments or ideas, as well as we must look at how the media propaganda will swung against socialism in Jamaica. Let's keep our ears and eyes to the ground. Thank you very much, YouTube and TikTok, for being here tonight on the Global Television Group. Global TV Advanced Potential now have full live capability on TikTok, and we will get that platform rolling and growing. Thank you very much. Join us back tomorrow morning for your At a Glance program at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you very much. Good night from Global TV.
If you don't like missing out on the latest shows but still enjoy classic hits, then Global TV Group 358 is your perfect match. Global TV Group 358 isn't just another channel, it's your ultimate TV experience. From breaking news to binge-worthy dramas and timeless classics, we've got it all. Our unique blend of original content and global favorites means there's something for everyone. And guess what? With GTVG's seamless streaming, you can watch anywhere, anytime. Plus, our interactive features let you be part of the action. So, whether you're a seasoned binge watcher or a casual viewer, Global TV Group 358 is here to keep you entertained day and night. Don't just watch TV, experience it with Global TV Group 358. Subscribe now and never miss a moment.